Um, I don't think that the Instagram is working. Okay, well, apparently no Instagram. Instagram can figure its life out, or apparently I can.
Instagram will figure itself out. I think probably whenever somebody buys it who's competent.
Oh my god, right? But we're live on all the other platforms. We're live on the YouTube, on the Book of the Faces. Let me do a little stretch. It's still early in the morning here. Good morning, everyone. It's your favorite legendary opinionated Amerislav. And today at Rich and Hydrated, we brought back our professional sorcerer, magician, meme king, live winner, banker, Alex. And today's episode is called We Have Opinions.
And we do.
Because we had so many opinions last time.
That we did.
So let's dive straight in with the first opinion. There's finally like medical science journalism has made a turnaround and is saying there's no such thing as a chemical imbalance or a chemical pointer for depression. And all the Slavic people are like, we told you so. We've been saying this.
I mean, you look at a very pragmatic group of people like the Slavs, and it always reminds me of the fact that anytime I've ever been to a country that was, let's say less than a Western standard of living in terms of money, they tended to be reasonably happy people. Actually, they tended to be like pretty able to appreciate what they had. I think there's a pretty good point of contention to be made that when you have too much neurosis and too much choice, like too many options and too little agency, you tend to just kind of fry your brain, right? Like I've known people, and also let's be real. One of the best cures for any problem you have is like moving the fuck around and like lifting a heavy thing and putting it down. Like
the winners have been saying.
But it's almost like your body is designed to do, right? Like last time we were talking, I was talking about the farmer's carry, right? Just because it's one of those lifts that like your body is just designed to do. Like you are supposed to be carrying things, just like you're supposed to be walking a lot every day. Like our species can walk livestock to death. Like, and I've known people who had depressive issues and whatnot, and I don't know everyone in the world, but I don't know a single person who hasn't been able to pretty much defeat it by getting in physical shape or eating better. Like if all you're doing is being stagnant, spiraling with your thoughts, not doing anything, because even like walking makes you feel as though you are moving forward in life, because you quite literally are. And literal, can turn to figurative in terms of like, it's kind of like how people have their best ideas when they're like on a walk in nature, doing nothing. And they're like, I mean, I do that all the time for business. I'll be like walking up, like, oh shit. That's why I carry a notepad with me when I walk. That said, I have definitely been the guy who's like, oh shit, cool. Let me get this thing down, and I've walked into a tree before. So we are none of us free from cringe. But no, truly the depression thing is interesting because there's also a lot of studies and proof that's like, if you meditate a certain way, you have less of this problem. If you quiet the inner chatter in your mind. And all it is doubt, and doubt can be defeated by proof of excellence. So, do more stuff. Go on a walk.
It's been, for one, I swear, I think walking is a life changer. Because everyone's always like, whenever people speak of like, having to physically move the body, I have no idea why they think that it has to be in a gym and it has to look like fucking Rocky Balboa, like da 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 da. No. I want you to just fucking walk. I just want you to walk. I think it's the absolute life changer. There's something about the, what do they call it? Bilateral movement. We do left, right, left, right. Right. So it's canoeing, walking, boxing, dancing, like everything that does this. It connects both wires, wiring, should I say? Um, it's good for your physical health. It's some magical sorcery for your mental clarity. You will lose weight. There's something about going for a walk even when circumstances aren't ideal, um, i.e., rain,
Mhm.
warm, just not feeling like it, right? Like there's something about that. But the funny thing is with the depression stuff, that like, so our culture doesn't acknowledge depression, so we have all these memes floating online where you see a Slav walking, he's like, oh, I'm depressed. Oh no, I just remembered that depression doesn't exist in our culture, right? And then he just feels better, right? But and that obviously comes from like the Western wave where like depression, but people defend their depression and their mental illness like it's an abusive partner that they're like loyal to.
Yeah.
Like, my ADHD won't allow me. I can't because of my depression. I'm like, you need to break up.
Well, my thing is this too. Like, let's suppose you do have a certain issue. That's a thing you should try. You should do your best to overcome, right? Like, no one expects perfection; they expect progress, and that's the thing. So, like, Slavs, of course, don't have depression. They just create Russian literature. Like Dostoevsky happens instead of depression happening. But I think a lot of it though is like how much of your life is based around survival and how much is based around, like I said, stagnation. I mean, it's never the people who have something going on that are this way. And then if you follow back a person's life long enough, you'll see that there was a sort of bifurcation event where they just stopped actualizing. Now, maybe this is a result of circumstances beyond their control. And you know what? Hey, maybe for a while, because like if something fucked up happened to you as a child or something, not your fault, but it is your responsibility not to make it other people's problem. And I think that's one of the bigger things about cultures that don't have truck with the idea of depression or something like that is they don't want to be a burden on other people. Because the one thing I have noticed definitely in my life is people who make their mental illness their personality. Like it's like their core trait of like, I have bipolar, I have this, I have that. They will be like, you, hypothetical stranger, will acquiesce to my weakest link. You will do, and then they wonder why no one wants to be around them. They wonder why,
Well, and
like,
it's also, I am bipolar, not even I have.
yeah,
I
no, yeah.
am borderliner. I am bipolar. I am anxious. Like making it the essence of the
Mhm.
personality.
No, it's true, but also like no one's gonna build your life for you. Like it's an entrepreneur bro thing to say, and I know that. And everyone who's like done it, who's built a business, who's written a book, who's done whatever, they all say it is true. Like if you get a good physique in the gym, you learn how to play an instrument, whatever the fuck it is, they'll be like, no one's gonna do it for you, and it's true. No one's gonna do it for you, but the people who are in those circumstances, they want people to do it for them. They want to be pulled up to where other people are. They want to climb up on other people's bootstraps, if we're going to use that
So
sort of thing. And I've seen this.
communism. Mental illness is communism.
It's the funniest thing about talking to Slavic people, especially people who grew up in a former Soviet country, is when they speak of communism or when it's brought up, there's this like auric field shift about like, I'll fucking kill you, like. It's like your genetic memory is like it's always
Yeah.
cold in Siberia. You know what I mean? Like it's one of
Yeah.
those fucking like it's this funny thing. But again, it's a situation where if you look at now of course don't say that to the depressed nose ring having barista who's like, well, actually communism was a good thing. And actually Stalin did nothing wrong. I hear that occasionally. And what's funny is I have seen someone say this to a Slavic woman before and got his teeth punched in. Like it was just this thing where it's like you push that's the thing about Slavs too. There's a button that they have in their brain where if you push it, they just become murderous, and that button's a little different for all of them.
Listen. The amount of times in America where a situation has happened, I turned around to my people and I went, do I go American at this or do I respond in a Slavic way? And everyone, please go American at it. Like, because that means like I'll end up suing them or, there's like some like, because the Slavic version will be, you will get your fucking teeth bashed in.
I mean, I think that depends on what part of America too, because if you're a 2A enthusiast, not there's a very American way to solve a certain kind of problem.
Violence is an answer.
I mean, I mean, to quote my boy Bobby Heinlein, sheer naked force has resolved more conflicts in the history than anything else. And really, force is the guiding factor behind agency. Really, your ability to cause change. You may not be causing violent change, but you are causing change. You could, however, cause harm with whatever power or agency you accumulate. So it's all a sort of soft violence, really.
Well, we've talked about it. Like, if you've experienced violence to, like, any extent of the real word. So micro violence isn't a thing, by the way. I don't care who the fuck you are. Micro violence doesn't exist. It's not a thing. One can be passive aggressive in their vocabulary, but that's about fucking it. But violence being met with physical force, it changes your outlook on life. Like, if you've ever been in a physical alternation, what's the English word?
Altercation, yeah.
Altercation, thank you. Like, it changes you for life.
You do find out who you are. That much is true. And it's a thing where, like, it gets funny too. Let's suppose I did kickboxing for a minute in my life, and you would see guys at the gym who were amazing in the gym, right? Like, they were incredible. You wouldn't want to spar them. But I have in my life seen two instances where people who were amazing in the gym got in real fights and it went really wrong for them. Like, somebody hit them without pulling that punch for the first time in their life, and their face just went flat. I mean, it was like, oh no. And don't get me wrong, it sucks. When someone rings your bell and they really want to hurt you, you're like, oh no, this is not. I mean, I've had that experience where I'm like, oh, this is bad. I did not know this is going to happen. And so you got to do it. The other time, actually, is I saw a guy get in a fight, get knocked down, hit his head on the side of a bar, and died, like, in front of everybody. And that just shows you the reality of, like, this game plays for keeps, right? And that's the thing. So not even just having it done unto you, but seeing it.
Oof.
And if you talk to anybody who's from a place in the world where violence was more common, they tend to be a lot more reserved. Mm-hmm. Actually, I find they tend to be like, I know how serious it can get, so I'm going to de-escalate as quick as possible. Yes. They don't want it to go there. They left that place to leave that reality.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the people who are the best physical combatants will do their utmost not to fight. Like, they're like, no, I don't want to do this. We're gonna back up on this.
Even Second Amendment people.
Oh yeah, no. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's funny. The first time you buy a gun and go to, like, a gun safety training course or whatever, which you should. If you buy a gun, you should learn how to use it. It's very important. They'll tell you, like, look, do everything you can to leave a situation. Like, if you're carrying, like, if you're concealed carrying, I mean, it's funny because you should keep up with the laws in your respective state. Because, like, in Pennsylvania, for example, if you're carrying, you can't just be getting into a fight. Like, even if unless it's obvious that you just physically had to defend yourself and you couldn't get to your weapon and you ran away or something, there are exceptions. But, like, if you get in a fist fight with a gun, people are going to be like, what are you doing? But it's just that reality of you have to be mature about it. You have to be aware of the fact that if you start this, you have to finish it, and that is a very, very grim connotation.
I talked with one of the other Second Amendment, like, one of the other gals who, like, specifically was a Second Amendment gal. We talked about how, for me at least, coming into a nation and becoming a Second Amendment absolutist, by the way, mm-hmm. that it matured me. Because, look, I'm from a version of a hood. I used to I like to have a fuse. I used to like have a fuse. And I used to be one of those gals that would get in physical fist fights as an adult too. And I remember when my firearm instructor, who was doing the CCW, the concealed carry weapon class, mm-hmm. And he's like, he shared his story about how he matured because of firearms, because he started carrying. And by the way, this was in Arizona, right? Like, it's a fairly open Second Amendment state. And he was like, he was outside in, like, a restaurant or some version. And he spoke to a woman and didn't know that the woman had her husband. So the husband came all fucking peacocky, right? Like, da, 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 with the what the fuck you're talking. I mean, it's not that he was disrespectful to the woman. So the firearm instructor goes like, "What do y'all think I did?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know, fucking give an attitude back, the fuck, right?" And he's like, "No, I apologized, gave him a compliment on his wife, bought both of them a soda or whatever because it was a non-alcohol place, and I went on my fucking merry way." And
That's how it has to be. I mean, honestly, I think every concealed carry person, I think, has that same story where they're like, they've had a situation where when they were younger or rowdier or whatever, they would have fought, or they would have, thought that they would have fought. And when you have that situation, you have to really step back and go like, the level to which I can escalate this is extreme. But even to turn back towards the conversation of depression and mental illness, the more responsibility you have, I actually find the less you have time for those things. Like you have less time. For example, when you're carrying a gun and there's going to be an altercation, you have to be the one who goes, I need to leave. I need to extricate myself from the situation, instead of I need to be a hothead. I need to be aggressive. I have something to prove. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people's acquiescence to their own frailty is something to prove to themselves. It's like, I can't do it. I can't be this thing. I can't. But when you can, and you are in any situation, something above the norm. Like, for example, in the case of being a firearms owner, you have an above average capacity to cause harm. You especially if you train with your weapon, especially if you practice situational awareness, which is a bit of a meme, but it isn't, where you realize that everyone in the room isn't aware of what's going on, and you are. Which, again, a bit of a caveat on that. No one is universally situationally aware. Like, there are people out there who are like, I'm always ready. No, you're not. But the point is,
but it's an active practice, and
it is an active practice, and one should. But the thing is, I as much as I love the Second Amendment community, as much as I love guns, there are some fucking meme lords in there that are just that give all of us a bad name. But but the thing is, if you have this agency, when you're making more money, when you get in better shape, when you do whatever, when you improve your capacities to create change in the world, good or bad, I find that the new elevation that you experience in your perception just makes you not have time for that shit. You're just like, no, I'm too busy either being happy or being aware. It's an expansion of an aperture rather than a closing of one, right? Like,
two things on that. On the responsibility part, I actually had to end friendships because I became a carrier of firearms. Because I had to have a conversation. I'm like, you cannot do what we used to do back in the times when you're like, oh, who the fuck you're looking at, or hey, you like, what's your problem? You cannot be doing that when I'm around right now, because if it gets into it, so that's a no. So I had to actually end friendships. And in regards to the thing what you say with responsibility and time, why is it? And I'm not wishing anyone to live in survival mode, which if you're from the West, you've never lived in survival mode. There's no such thing as survival mode. Having to work for your food or not being able to pay your bills is not survival mode.
Sure, yeah.
Survival mode is a very short time frame and a mental state. It's not living years in survival mode, but for the ease of conversation, we use it, right? Why is it that people in survival mode, they don't have the luxury to be like, oh, my depression won't allow me to?
Yeah, well, that's because they default to the lizard brain. You know what I mean? They're they really push you to the point where you can you have to live, you have to persist, you have got to survive, right? And I've also found too, like, going back to your point about like you can't be around certain people. I remember I was out with a friend, this is probably 3 years ago now. She was driving. Somebody cut her off, and she just had this road rage incident where she decided to follow them.
Oh, Lord.
And I remember being like, what are you doing? You need to not do this. I have a gun. like, you can't do this. And she was like, no, fuck them. Like, I'm going to go talk to them. And I'm like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, you don't know who's in the car. You don't know what's going to happen. And she's like, well, you know, you'll have my back, right? I'm like, you're asking me to kill people for your childish behavior. That's essentially what you're, and I do not spend time with that person at this point anymore. Because it's funny too, because the more agency you have, the further you get from the survival mode, knee-jerk reaction, living your life thing, the more people come to resent you for having that like level of inner calm. This person never let that go. She was always like, well, you didn't have my back at that time.
Betrayal.
You didn't, and I'm over. And again, it's one of those things where you're like, you are asking a thing that you don't understand.
Well, and it's also, again, we're coming back to communism, because it's spending other people's life force in this case, or other people's money, right? That's like, please, I'm willing to spend the thing that I don't have myself. That's such audacious. It's so fucking stupid.
It's a really interesting form of vampirism, is what it is. Like, it's literally siphoning other people's aspects for your own, to plug the holes in your own ship, is what it is, to see to your weakness. You know, I mean, I've seen this with all manner of people over the course of my life, in spiritual communities, out of spiritual communities. You know, it's this like, the weakest link needs to be uplifted somehow, rather than, like, there's nothing wrong with saying, I have this problem, I need to fix it, help me fix it.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
All the winners will be ready to help you at that moment.
That's the thing. In my experience, the people I know who have really made it, because they like solving problems. Part of it is that they like to do it, right? But another part of it is like, they're like, oh, you want to be better? I will move mountains to let you walk through the door, but you still have to walk through the door. Like, I've known people who've built the door for me, but I still had to walk through it. And you know, when you do it, they're on the other side, ready to congratulate you, ready to celebrate with you. But the thing is, some people are like, carry me through the door, like, build the door, carry me up the mountain, carry me through the door, pat me on the head, and tell me I did a good job. Like, that's what pisses me off, because you're like, you have done nothing, you have accomplished nothing. And like I always say, perfection is never going to be real. You're always going to have days where you fuck up, but it's about consistency. It's about doing the thing. But people, they don't just want help. They want salvation, is what it is. And, you know, I'm not the church. That, you know, you go over there, see how much that helps you. Granted,
or I'm a philanthropist.
No, nor I. But even then, the thing is, you know, who was it? I want to say it was J.P. Morgan, but I might be wrong. It was during, like, again, this is, my history might be fucked up, but it was some Gilded Age level wealthy person who was asked by an interviewer, like, you have enough money that you could give everyone in this city $1 million. This is back when $1 million was $1 million, you know. And I was like, why don't you? And he was like, well, if I did, they'd be right back where they started in a year, because they don't understand how money works. And he said, I would happily build a school to teach you how to use money, but nobody would show up, even if I made it free. But they want it to be handed to them, and they think it's going to be fine. So the thing, if you don't have the architecture for success in you, then you're just going to fuck up, especially if someone hands you something for free.
So when I picked one of my dogs, one of my dogs went to a professional trainer, right? Because I know it's above my skill level. And she was like an angry, anxious dog. And in one of the conversations, like, one of the main questions that the trainer started with is like, you know, what is her feed, what brand, what amount, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, what do you, like, it's a dog, right? And she goes like, I would say about 80% of the dogs, the problem dogs that we get here, the moment we put them on a better diet, their problems solve.
I can see that.
And I'm like, oh shit. I always yell with humans like that too, right? Like, do you have ADHD, or did you eat donuts as fucking breakfast? For one, if you're a fatty, I'm not taking any of your labels seriously. I will never even, I don't care who fucking diagnosed you. If you're a fatty, I'm not taking you don't have borderline, whatever the fuck you have. None of it until you actually fucking solve your diet. I'm willing to have a conversation about your mental problems after that.
Sure. No, I mean, diet is, food is literally what builds you. But it's like occasionally I see these memes on Instagram which are hilarious, where it's like, all I need is like this in a view, and it's like a plate of steak and eggs, and it's like this cured my depression. It's like a plate of steak and eggs and like a waterfall.
It's true.
I mean, it honestly, it really is. But if you live, it's kind of funny too. Like I do this with a lot of my students actually, where a lot of them are like, I'm having trouble with this energetic practice, this magical practice, whatever. And I'm like, what are you eating? And they're like, oh, I'm a vegan. And I'm like, that's your fucking problem. And they're like, well, but this spiritual guru said I should. And I'm like, they lied to you. Unless that motherfucker can levitate. If you can levitate and you're like, I'm a vegan, I still wouldn't do it because I don't care enough about levitation to not eat meat.
But I would acknowledge it.
But I would acknowledge, like, oh, cool, then that must have done that for you, I guess. Until of course I see somebody eating a hamburger levitating, and he's like, well, it works for me. But no, like, oh, thunder. But anyway,
Was that thunder?
oh, there's the other thunder. Just see, that's the thing is, God loves me the best. So every time I make a good point, there's thunder. Is really what it is. Because often imitated, never duplicated. Ain't nobody but me. But anyway, the point is, I've seen this and I've told people like, yeah, just eat some fucking meat. And it's funny because without exception, everyone I have ever told to do this, after they do it for like 2 weeks, they're like, holy shit, like my brain fog is cleared. I feel so much stronger. I'm not tired in the middle of the day. I'm happier. So this is another story. So I have a really good friend, one of my best friends. I'm not going to name him, but he was vegan for like 2 years. And we went to this concert and they had hot dogs, like the greasiest, worst, best hot dogs, which I love. But anyway, so he was like, oh, I want a fucking hot dog. And we were all drinking, we were all being goofy. And he ate a hot dog, and that night it was like he was reborn. Like he got in a fight, he won the fight. I'm not saying you should just get in fights or whatever, but it was like he was a new man, like all because he'd eat, and then he never was vegan again.
And all was good. God came down, and all was good.
God came down in the form of a tube of meat.
Divinity and everything. Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's real though.
Oh my God, it's. Where did I want to go with? Oh, so I started a year coaching with a coach that I've been like dreaming of for a fucking year. Hi, Maddie. Listen, without fucking spilling what she's having us do, because you have to be in the program. One of this thing is she makes us work out and have a good diet. And I'm like, you're a fucking, she's a business coach, right? I'm like, you're a fucking baller for that. That's a fucking good one. I'm already good because, I do 75 hard again. So, but I'm like that. You're a fucking real one for that.
No, it's true. And again, that's the thing. I mean, the things that build you, your habits, your food, the things you consume. And like, look, I'm a big proponent of fiction, right? Like that's the thing. It's a thing that like I am different than a lot of entrepreneurs I know. Because a lot of my entrepreneurial friends are honestly kind of annoying where they're like, I don't read fiction. I only read to learn things. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I like me some novels about vampires and elves and cool shit. Fuck you. I'm going to read them. But but as I said, as much as I love fiction, I do alternate between fiction book, nonfiction book, fiction book. The things you fill yourself with. Like reading, even reading the trashiest fiction book known to man is still better for your brain than watching an hour of Netflix. Not that I don't watch shows, because I do, but that's like if I've done everything in my day I'm supposed to do, then I can do whatever I want to do, right? Like, but again, it's about like what you build, you know what I mean? Like, and even people who are in like that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of hobbies and shit that like get you doing something. Like I don't care what it is. You write fan fiction, you build models, you are interested in mycology, you do whatever the fuck. It's about building yourself into a more expansive and interesting person, which again, going back to the depression thing, would fucking fix that if you liked yourself. Because a lot of people I know who struggle with that don't like who they are. They look in the mirror and they're like, I fucking hate this person.
Yeah, but they have this idea, and this is the thing. They aren't willing to accept the explanation from people who do like themselves. They perceive themselves as these. They have, for one, unique problems that are heavier than the others. And two, when people who do love themselves explain to them, I was not like given some rare gene that I just woke up, came out, flying out of the womb, be like, woo, like I love myself. No. I too had to work to figure out how do I become a lovable person to myself.
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but they perceive depresso people and all these other fucking mentally ill, those have something that God, God loves those, but God hates me. And no, just refusing to accept that it takes work.
Oh no, it absolutely does. I mean, a mentor of mine from many, many, many years ago once said to me, if you wouldn't want to read a comic book about your life, change it. Like, become the kind of person you want to. Like, dress the way you want to dress, look the way you want to look, do the things you want to do, regardless. And don't get me wrong, that can really put you at odds with other people. That can really put you at odds with people who don't want to do that, who are concerned about concerned about standing out, concerned about doing whatever. And that's just that's the price of admission. You know what I mean? You have to be willing to be divisive if you want to be someone who you. This is the thing. I mean, because it's one of those, the old adage of those who stand up cast a shadow, and the taller you stand, the darker and longer and deeper the shadow you cast. And the thing is, a lot of people sit in the shadows cast by those who stand, right? And they're very, very vexed by people who are like, "No, I'm fucking great." Like, I love. It's kind of funny too. Like, so as a professional fucking wizard, right? I've often had to give my business card to people. Like, airport bars are some of my favorites because you can be anybody in an airport bar, right? Like, nobody knows who you are, where you're going. But so so like, hey, what do you sit down next to somebody, you're having a drink, maybe you're just getting some hydration in you, whatever, you're just chilling, or even just in the terminal, right, or in one of the airport lounges. If you are an airport lounge enthusiast, the American Admiral Lounge is my favorite thus far. But you're saying someone, people strike up conversations like, what do you do? They're like, oh, I'm a data analyst, I'm this, I'm that. And normally I try to get people talking about what they do, because what I do is divisive and fucking unhinged. I'm aware of this. They're like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, all right. I give him my business card. And at first I used to be a little bit sheepish about it. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm a little bit of a wizard, you know what I mean? A little bit of a, now I'm like, I'm a fucking sorcerer. They're like, what? I'm like, yep, I said what I said. And my business card says better living through sorcery on it. And I hand that to people and they're like, are you fucking for real? And I'm like, I sure am. Book a reading, book a consult, book a whatever. And more people have actually come to me with that. But also I've had people get fucking angry. Like, genuinely, like stand up, almost make a scene in an airport, angry. Sometimes it's for religious reasons. Like, I have had people be like, you're this one guy. And again, I should have known, because he had like the Texas string tie and the big cowboy hat. And I thought we were just gonna talk about guns and shit, because that's the kind of guy you want to talk about guns with, but he stood up and he said, you're the adversary. And I went, nah. But like, just what do
thank
you say?
You.
Because honestly, I was afraid he was gonna like attack me, but it's also when he stood up, he stood all the way up, and I'm like, that's a big one. That's a big human right there. If he hits me, I'm gonna feel every ounce of that 250 pounds. But I've had people get mad, be like, you expect me to believe this? Like, you expect me to believe this shit? Like, this is a scam. You're a scam artist. You're this. You're that. And I'm like, okay. And at first, I understand, although I don't respect it, skepticism. Like, I'm forced to acknowledge that's just the way of the world. But what I don't get, or what I didn't get rather, was the immediate aggression, the immediate like, fuck you for being something different, for being something unusual. It's also the whole like dressing strangely, having strange colored hair, having, in your case, many tattoos at whatever age. Not that you can get rid of those easily. People will look at that, and if it doesn't align with their idea of what things ought to be, they can get pretty pissed. They can take that shit personal. And for me, that's always been a personal problem for them, because the way I handle it, I don't care if you're the most normal looking person, the weirdest looking fucking person. I have friends on both sides. It's kind of funny. One of my best friends, he is the most nifty 50s looking, polo shirt wearing. His house has a literal white picket fence around it. Like, and his wife is the sundress wearing, like there's a certain group of people that their family would just piss off. They're also very blonde and very it's like they would just really bother people. And he and I hang out, and it's like, I remember this one time, it was middle of winter, and because I'm an expressive individual, I had this leather jacket with spikes and chains on it, and I'm over there, we're talking, and we're just talking about guns at this restaurant. And the other guy, who's I guess a friend of my friend, stops and looks at us and he goes, "Hey, friend's name, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm hanging out with Alex." He's like, "Oh, cool." And just talking, and then the guy says to me, "He's like, I just didn't think you'd be friends with name of my friend." And I'm like, "Oh, it's almost like it's the content of a person's character." You know what I mean? But that's the thing. Going back to it, if you chain yourself to frailties that you choose, right? You cloak yourself in them. You wear them like a crown, where you're like, I am broken, and I cannot be fixed. Then you're also going to decide that there's certain people you can't talk to. There's certain people, and it's funny because, as I'm sure as you know, when you get to a certain high achieving population, they do not care what you look like. They care what you can do. They care about how you've succeeded. Now they may rib you a little bit. You may rib each other a little bit, but like I've actually never found a more accepting group of people than high performers in any field, because they only care about what you have accomplished. They do not give a fuck about your aesthetic choices,
Your
or even some of
history.
your life philosophies. Like, I mean, I've known people, like for example, this friend of mine, he is the most straight-laced, vanilla person in the world. And another one of his best friends is like a facet in like the BDSM community around an area. Now, my own skepticism about the BDSM community aside, the fact that they're like thick as thieves, when one of them is like, he does a job that I can't talk about because it's actually quite important, but he's friends with the guy who's like, my job is the BDSM community, like over the course of like a coastal like level. But it's all about like, he's a businessman, I'm a businessman. Like, that's all this is. And it just goes to show, like, the higher you rise as a person, the fewer people are going to be peers to you. But honestly, the more welcoming I find things have been, which is not what people expect.
Yeah. And it's so funny because like when I'm with I always joke that I'm the poorest of my friend group. Like the business people are in the multiple mills. We have one bill. Anyway, so but like I'm almost kind of like the interesting freak show that made it, right? Because she's like, yo, Red, tell them what made you big. I'm like, it's to be a dominatrix, and I used to blackmail people, and they're like, yo, this is so cool. Tell us the stories. Right? So yeah, they're just like, oh, you fucking made it in a very weird way. They
No, I
don't
mean
care.
but the thing is, but that's exactly what it is. Like, the more, no, I'm not friends with any billionaires, but I do have some friends who are in the millionaire kind of class, and spending time around them has been really, really refreshing in a way, because once you get past the fact that some of them, like, so I would cut them in half, right? The groups. They're the Alex Hormozy types who like literally can't stop moving. They're like sharks. If they stop moving, they die. And they're great. They are great people to hang out with if you have a problem, or you want to solve something, or you want to learn something.
Yeah.
They're not people that you can ever just hang out with, though.
There's no hanging out.
No, genuinely. And then I have some friends who are of the same income bracket who are more chill, are more whatever. But the biggest thing is they concern themselves more with ideas, and they love underdog stories too. They love the proof that this weird motherfucker made it, or this person did it. Like, I have a business mentor who literally I only pay to speak about business stuff to. He now knows that magic is real, but 3.5 years ago when I started working with him, he was like, I don't think this shit's real at all, but you're clearly making enough money that enough people do that it's just a sellable commodity. It's just intellectual property, and we can work with that. And he is so thrilled that I am doing well, because he's like, you fucking did it, kid. Like, you fucking made it. And I'm like, that's great. He's like, you know what? I knew you were gonna make it, but I love the fact that you did, because the more weirdos make it, the more I realize that this is for whoever wants it.
The more weirdos make it, the more we realize this is for anyone who wants it.
That's yeah, and honestly, he's a fucking legend. This,
That's so
and if he
good.
ever sees this, Mark, you know who you are, man. Like, you fucking king. But like, no, it's just funny because especially when you move into like the echelons of people who are really high performers in any field, I'm constantly surprised at just how many stereotypes aren't true. Like the Scrooge McDuck wealth hoarder guy, never met him. I'm sure he exists, never met him. The people I know who are very wealthy are actually kind of frighteningly generous. Like to the point where I've had friends of mine offer to buy me things that I could not in good conscience accept because I'm like, I cannot. No. Like,
Would you? Because I found a different classification. It's old money versus new money, and or self-made plus self-actualized. I'm putting in that in the same category as new money. The old money people can be. I those I have met that are really fucking. What do you call it? Scrawny,
stingy, I believe.
stingy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've
New-
only ever met one old money family that I've talked to, and
Mhm.
I actually don't know, to come to think of it, if they're that way or not. I don't really deal with them that much. Some of them have been clients of mine, and they pay me. But I mean, it's like, for example, I have a friend of mine who just straight up offered to buy me a vehicle once, and I didn't take it because one, I didn't want the vehicle that he was offering me. Not that it was a bad thing. I was just like, I have no use for this particular thing. But the fact that he would have done it, and it freaked me out. Actually, this was a couple of years ago, and it freaked me out. And he said to me, like, I would have done it, and he said, keep in mind, like, this is not the last time that this will ever be offered to you. But he said, but I want you to get to the place where you can be the person that does this for
Mm.
other people. But the thing that's interesting to me is all these fucking stereotypes that you see, right? For example, the idea that like very wealthy people would always have like dumb bimbo wives. I have actually never seen this. Not that the people I know, their wives are unattractive, but like the biggest thing is they're like, I don't want a wife who will embarrass me. That seems like almost an old money or like a boomer kind of thing where they're like, this is my trophy wife and I don't want her to speak. Because I mean, I've been to, and again, I always felt so out of place when I was invited to go to like meetups and gatherings of such people recently, where I'm like, what the fuck am I even doing here? Like, but but the thing is, you meet there, and the thing is, their spouses are either equally successful or fascinating people. They're like, because like, for example, my business mentor, his wife is like, she was head of emergency surgery in the city where they live. And I asked him, I'm like, why? And he goes, well, I do a lot of stupid stuff, and one day she's going to need to put me back together. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to need to patch me up with a stapler. But like, that's the thing. So, but it's funny because I've also talked to people who are self-made or self-actualized successful people who will tell you, like, I used to have a lot of dark nights of the soul. I used to be unhappy. I used to have all this shit. And then I decided I was going to give it my best to just see what happens if I tried to fix it. And then 6 years later, they're like, holy shit, it worked. Like, it worked better than I expected. It really just goes to show you, like, it's always, again, this goes back to the farmer's carry thing. It's one more step. Can you take one more step today than you did yesterday?
Was that thunder again?
There was thunder because God understands that I'm the best that ever was. So
Word.
we know this is true, because when you're God's favorite son like me, you do have a responsibility to educate those who are not, in fact, God's favorite son.
The truest words.
It's true. It's true.
You're basically a prophet.
It's true. It's true. And I'm a prophet for profit. It's an interesting experience. But but God said to me, Alex, when I made you, I decided I was going to make a really fucking cool one. And I was like, and you did it. You did it, big man. You did it. He's like, I sure did.
Oh my God, that's so good. I'm a prophet for profit.
Hey, you want a reading? You know who to go to. I'll tell you the future, the present, the past, and all kinds of shit you didn't want to know.
Oh my God, that's so fucking good. No, but that's real. Yeah. Let's walk down through. Okay, so through some inaccurate, what do you call them, stereotypes? Okay, so having the trophy wife, that's not a thing. Being stingy as a rich person, not a thing. Being greedy, wanting just money. I don't know any entrepreneur that just wants money.
They want time. They want freedom. That's really what it comes down to.
And they just want to elaborate on the thing they're doing, and money becomes the byproduct. But no one's like, I want money.
No, I mean, I've noticed that too. I've noticed that too. Now, again, of course, there are probably people out there who are that thing, but it's just refreshing when you open the door to that echelon of the world, and you just don't see what you thought you'd see. And it's actually kind of funny because when I realized the trophy wife thing just wasn't a thing like I thought to, every now and again I'll have clients come to me, women who are like, I want you to do a lover drawing spell. I want you to draw me like a wealthy man. And I'll tell them, I'm like, I can, but you can't keep him because the game has changed, baby girl. Like, maybe once upon a time, all you needed to do was be hot, but that isn't the case anymore. Like, it's funny because the one thing I have seen that I actually was surprised about is just how many entrepreneurial dudes use escorts for a period of time. Like, they're like, look, I'm working really hard in my business and I'm growing my stuff and I'm moving to an upper echelon. And I actually know a guy who's become quite a good friend of mine. Has quite a lot of money. I'm his poor friend, by comparison. And he told me the truth. He was like, yeah, I spent like 3 years just seeing the wildest kind of escorts I could and he said to me, because I wasn't good with girls before I got money. And so I had to do exposure therapy to be accustomed to being around girls so that when he met his now fiance, he just wasn't fucking scared of her. Like, he wasn't, but that's the thing. So that was a surprise to me, because if just for whatever reason, I didn't think that they would do that. But it makes sense from like a time management perspective, where they're like, I don't have time to date, but I still want to get laid. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a curated experience. It is the thing they want it to be. It is whatever. But it's interesting because, like, I just didn't expect it. Just didn't. The weirdest thing though is whenever your friend is like, "Hey, you want me to rate you an escort?" And you're like, "What?" like, bro, what? Nah, man, I'm good. I don't. I
admit you though.
What's up?
Yeah, thank you though, but no.
I'm not gonna lie. That spooked me. That I didn't know what to do. It's rare that I'm like tilted in a way that I'm like, But when he was like, yeah, look here, and he was like, yeah, like, what do you want? He held up his phone, and there were all these pictures of women, and I'm like, I want to go home. I couldn't do it. I was like, and it wasn't.
Mommy, mom, come pick me up. People are trying to offer me escorts here.
Scared. No, but honestly, like, it wasn't even like a moral thing. It was just like I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do here. But it was
it's autism in you.
I don't know. I don't think it was an autism thing. Because I don't have that problem. It was just the fact that I did not know that this was even an option in life, let alone that it would be like just put in front of me. And then I was kind of like, because I remember we were just hanging out, and he was like, "Do you want to do this right now?" And I'm like, "Right now? Right now? Nah, man." He's like, "Oh."
It's like someone offering you want a DoorDash, and you're like, "Oh, you want an escort?"
Honestly, kind of. And then he's like, "Well, all right, well then I guess we're gonna hang out like in a week, because like I'm gonna do this right now." And I'm like, "Man, hey, you go ahead and you do whatever you got to do, bro." And he's like, "Cool, but like let me know." And I'm like, I will, man. I will. That's cool. And again, like, it just God damn, it was a humbling experience, because I'm like, I don't know what to do here. And like, then I went home, and I was just sitting in my living room being like, should I have done that? Should I have gone for that? I don't know.
Questioning life.
I don't know what to do in that situation. Like, I don't, like, because again, like, I can only imagine, like, you're like, yeah, hell yeah, escort, whatever. Because I've never had that experience. I've never paid a sex worker for anything. And so, like, I'm like, I'd be like, well, the closest I've ever gotten, I dated a stripper for a few years, and I was hanging out with her and her friends, and her rival at the club bought me a lap dance, like a private room with someone that my girlfriend at the time hated. So I go up to the thing, and I'm like, look, I don't want to be here, whatever, but I understand, like, you need to make your money and you need to do your thing. She's like, well, what do you want to do? And I jokingly said, I don't know, give me a puppet show. And she goes, hold on, leaves, comes back with puppets, and does it. And she's like, do you think I haven't been asked weirder things tonight tonight. And she gave me an actually somewhat decent puppet show. And I'm just sitting here being like, so like I thought about that and I'm like, fuck, I'm scared. Like, what if I tried to like max this out and this woman's like, no, you fucking child, like you don't understand. Like, no, no. Couldn't handle it.
I fucking love the transparency and honesty right here. Like,
hey,
I was offered escorts and I totally blanked. I had no software that told me how to deal.
It was just a bump. Okay, like, but that's the thing, you know, you gotta be honest about, because that's actually one of the fun things about leveling up in life is you get to have more experiences. You're like, holy shit, look at that. Because it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like I don't know what's going on thing. And I love those experiences. I love being put in a place where I'm like, not like dangerously outside my comfort zone, but like what do I do? Like another example is I used to visit Austin, Texas a number of times. I dated someone who lived there. Bad idea, terrible partner. But at one point, I went to this like weird like honky tonk club where they were doing two-step dancing, and this little old lady like walking up to me. She's like, "You're my dancing partner tonight," and I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." Like, you know, just like fuck it. Like I learned how to two-step, and I was very bad at it. And it was adorable. And I'm like, fuck it. Like, how many opportunities are you going to have to do this? Now, that said, you know, the spectrum between two-stepping and escorts is a large one, perhaps. But some people might not say it is. You know, like, I don't know. Maybe that's the girlfriend experience people pay for. You know, I don't know. I don't know. You never know what people are into. I mean, surely you fucking know that better than I do.
Like, the stories that I could tell here where, like, the Albanian mafia hired off a whole brothel and we helped the hookers rob them.
You know, that's fucking based. I'm not gonna lie.
And, like, in hindsight, every time I tell the story, in hindsight, everyone goes, like, you know, the Albanian mafia would kill you. And I'm like, yeah, probably. Like, in that moment, I didn't think of that. We just had, like, I was the cleaning lady. Those were the hookers. They were doing oral activity, let's call it that way, to distract. I would bring the new towels, bring the old towels with their clothing under it, which was filled with pockets with stacks of 500s. Because they were coked up.
Yeah, I bet they fucking were. Jesus
so,
Christ.
You know,
but no, I mean, but honestly, it's kind of fun when you're younger. There are just some wild things that you do that you look back on and you're like, I really did that. That's wow. And it's true. Like, you don't think about it normally. You're just like, fuck it, we ball. Like
we balling.
You know, and then when you get older and you near 40, you're like, maybe we don't ball quite so much.
Let's tone down the balling.
It's true, because it's one of those situations where you're like, and sometimes we ball to the point of diminishing returns. So,
but it's so funny because, like, I don't think I had the we ball aspect. I just think I had like a underdeveloped friend. I don't know, because one of my best friends, she was a very responsible gal. And I remember that, like, we were hanging around in some fucking ghetto because I thought it was fun. And these, like, actual gangsters were like, are y'all coming with us? I'm like, okay. And she was like, and she's like, no. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's go. She's like, no. And I'm like, no, I don't see what the problem. And I had to explain to the actual gangsters and my party pooper friend here. They don't want to get into the car with this, like, actual gangsters that we had just met.
You know, really, you know, those are the two extremes in the world. You know, either you're the kind of person who gets in the car with the gangsters, or you're not, I guess. But honestly, it's funny because there are times when I've done some dangerous shit in my life, looking back, and I'm like, I really must have had spirits protecting me. Like, I really must have, because there are times, I don't know if you ever had this experience where you did something dangerous and so did somebody else, and they got fucked up and you were miraculously fine.
Yep. many times.
And you're just like, wow, shit. Good
I
for
mean,
me, I
robbing the
guess.
Albanian mafia was one of them.
The Albanian mafia sounds like a time where that would be the circumstance. Because it has to be the Albanian mafia, though. It can't just be any old mafia, you know.
We don't. I don't think we. So because that was in the Netherlands. I don't think we have Italian mafia. We have Russian mafia, but they don't operate as like surface level as the Albanian mafia does.
Hmm.
Yeah, and here in America, I think y'all obviously East Coast used to have a lot of Italian mafia.
Yeah, but now the organized crime in America is basically the Democrat Party. So, you know, that's just what it is.
Burn! Shots fucking fired. Are there fucking sounds here that I can add?
The reggae air horns.
Oh, I'm trying. Oh, it's background music. That's not what I want. Like sound effects. Oh my god, that. Oh my fucking shots fired. Well, yeah, and I told you about the Albanian mafia son that I was trying to date. I didn't realize I had two Albanian mafia stories until now. But there was this Albanian. I just got out of like my first serious relationship, which was with the son of a drug lord, as one does. Again, because I don't fucking know. And I ended up. This guy approached me outside while I think I was working out, and he was an Albanian mafia son.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go on a date with you. And we went on like 3 dates. And he always had a fucking new car. And like the baller of like we ballin' cars type thing. And after the third date, I just didn't think like I don't think it was gonna go anywhere. We were not a clique. But so I told him, hey, you know, I was quite okay about it. Like, hey, I don't think we're a good match, but you know, it was fun. And he was like, oh, you think this was an option?
Oh no.
And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm an independent woman. He's like, oh no. I'll pick you up tomorrow again. And I went to visit my mom and my stepdad at that moment. And that moment, my stepdad was doing business with the Hells Angels. So I had the Hells Angels president and the right-hand man sitting at my home. By the way, the right-hand man of the Hells Angels, biggest animal lover on the fucking planet. Like, you know, big fucking guy. The moment me and my dogs, he was like, oh my, super cute. Anyway, so they asked, so I don't even know how it happened because it was like the 7th time that I saw them. But the president goes, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, what are you hiding? I'm like, I'm not hiding anything. He's like, well, you are kind of like nervous. No, I'm not. You know, I'm also like aware this is the Hells Angel president, so I can't be like too fucking cocky. And he's like, no. And he's so super calm. He goes like, what's going on? I'm like, well, if you're like really insist, you know, I went on a few dates with someone and he won't leave me alone right now. Now he's stalking me and he's, you know, driving by my house. He's like, call him right now. I'm like, and I've shared the story several times already, but it remains a fun story forever. He's like, call him right the fuck now. So I call him and give him the phone and he disappears fucking outside with the conversation. They leave. And I'm never being bothered any time again by the Albanian mafia son. So I don't know what happened, but hey.
See, that's crazy. You know, you dated someone in the Albanian mafia. I dated someone who worked at Hot Topic once. So.
Tell me about the Hot Topic girl.
So I was. So it's actually kind of funny. That was when I was in my senior year of high school. I decided I was going to date women my own age instead of adult women. I don't know.
How old? Wait, for the Europeans, how old are you in senior high school?
17, 18.
Okay.
But from age 14 to 17, I was dating adult women because I had magic and I used it to, you know, date adult women. Best decision of my fucking life. Lots of research shows that the younger you lose your virginity as a man, the more likely you are to be successful. But that being, you know, it shouldn't be surprising to anybody. But so I decided to date someone my own age, and her name was Mallory, and she was the hot goth girl in my class, and she worked at Hot Topic, and yeah, it was honestly it's kind of a lukewarm, kind of boring situation because she wasn't like a grown ass woman, so I had to start over. I remember that very clearly, being like, all right, like we're fucking, and she's like, what? Like I mean, I was used to experiencing life, experiencing itself. So I had to I had to pump the brakes and start over. And I remember being like, this sucks, because she worked at Hot Topic, and the girl I was dating, the woman I was dating before, which by the way, they all thought I was retarded. Because honestly, because I didn't know anything about the world, because I was obviously starting to do this when I was a child with magic, so I was sneaking around doing it. And I remember at one point they were like, do you go to college? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what do you study? And I remember seeing a poster in my high school for the arts and sciences program, and I was like, I study arts and sciences, both of them. And they were like, what? Another favorite of mine is like, how much is your rent? And I'm like, $50. The dumbest shit. And so there were these, because I would go through them pretty quickly, because they would break up with me because I was fucking stupid.
They thought you were retarded.
They did. They thought I was slow. Like a lot of them really did. And then but by the time I dated a girl my own age, it was like the reverse, because I made every mistake, right? I had done every stupid thing in a closed environment. And then she was the dumb one to me, because she didn't know how the world worked, and I sort of did by that point, by osmosis.
Oh my! How much is your rent? $50.
That was when I was 16, because I was thinking, I was like, well, I mean, obviously rent is money, and what's a lot of money to me right now? $50.
Fucking
shit,
beast.
Listen, if only, right? But so that was another funny thing too, because I was like, oh yeah, my boss is also my landlord, and they were like, why would you ever let yourself be in that situation? I went on this message board so it was a Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game message board, but there was a general thing.
What a fucking nerd.
Oh no, I'm a turbo nerd all day and every way. So I remember going on this thing, and there's a general, you can talk about whatever subboard. And I was like, all right, look, you guys aren't going to believe me, but I'm 16 and my girlfriend's 24, and she doesn't know that I'm 16. What are adult things to say? And first of all, people were like, I don't believe you. But a few people were like, hold up, maybe he's telling the truth. What do you mean by that? And I'm like, well, I mean, I told her my rent was $50, and she's mad. And they're like, what the hell? And so, but then they were like, okay, well, what is your actual situation? And I'm like, I am 16. I live with my parents. This person does not know. I have deceived her into thinking I'm an adult. And they were like, how? And I'm like, you will not believe me. You will not believe me if I tell you, just understand that I've done this. And they were like, okay, fine. And they helped me a little bit to be like, okay, well, $50 is not what rent costs. You should go on the internet like you are right now and look up what an apartment costs. And so my stupid ass was like, all right, well, what's an apartment cost? And a cheap one at the time, in the year of our Lord 2004, was $350. And I was like, well, she's gonna think I'm poor, so I need a big one. So then I was like, oh, I moved to a new place, and she was like, well, how much is the rent there? And I'm like, $3,000. And then she left me. She went, I don't even know why I bother with you. She's like, you're clearly, and I thought she was going to say lying to me, and I've discovered it all. She said, you're clearly the dumbest adult man I've ever met. And I'm like, I'll take it.
And you're like, she called me an adult.
Basically. Oh, hell. Oh my God. Honestly, the shit I got away with when it came to that. And literally, I would be like, okay, cool, I got away with it. I go home and I go to my parents' basement, and I would crouch in the corner and light a candle and say all the spells and everything, and be like, keep thinking I'm an adult.
Holy shit.
This is back in the day before it was easy to print pictures off, so I'd steal hair from her hairbrush in her bathroom, all the old school stuff, and just be like, nah, keep thinking I'm an adult, keep thinking I'm an adult. And yeah, it definitely worked out in my favor, but I got to make all the mistakes in a controlled environment.
In a controlled environment.
Well, because like at the end of the day, like what if it didn't work? I would just find another one, and again, and if I couldn't find any for whatever reason, I would just go back to being a high school kid. You know, like whatever. Like I'm.
Like you were a high school kid anyway.
Yeah, no, it was. But that's what I mean is like I could just default to like a normal life.
Well, that's one, and I think you and I both have this. Is everything okay?
Yeah, actually, I'm getting a phone call from a client, which
Okay.
that reminds me, I actually have a client in now.
Okay.
So,
Hey, it was great talking to you. We'll do it in 2 weeks again.
yeah,
Everyone, rich and hydrated with
yeah,
Alex.
delightful.